In the top left of Gresfon, we do have Dark. And the bottom right is the blue Terran. It is GuMiHo, who is sending out SCVs. And is actually 2-raxing, not a forward 2-rax. All right, then. So, forward wall-off, though, with a proxy rax by the looks of things, actually. It's a little bit more interesting than that. But this is the first semifinal, best of 5 for the GSL semis. And the other best of 5 semifinal, we also have Maru versus Cure. So this best of 5 will determine who will advance to the finals first, and then they will await their opponents, which, if I have to be honest, I'm going to go ahead and assume is Maru. Cure is a good contender. Probably the best contender to face Maru. Maybe Dark would also be pretty good, but Cure is probably the best contender, but Maru probably wins the entire thing yet again, because that's what he does. But these two are looking to at least be a finalist. They got an Overlord scouting this single proxy barracks, almost like a TVT thing. One proxy barracks, one at home. Very uncommon in TVZ. The drones are being pulled to take care of this. Just 3 of them. You don't really need much more. It's really not that far away. It's clearly not being close to finish, so there's a good chance you could kill the SCV. And it looks like the SCV is going to avoid the one little sneak spot that it's looking for. Yeah. It probably could have gotten back there, I guess, but RNG needed to be on GuMiHo's side. Now, fortunately, with GuMiHo's opener... Wait. Am I... There must... Okay, so we must have started this barracks, like, as I was watching that happen, because I saw 2 barracks on the production tab, and I thought the second one was a little farther into building than it actually was. It was not, so I don't know what you would have called that. Certainly a proxy Reaper, and then maybe this barracks is going to be used to build something back at home, you know? Maybe another Reaper, but the Reaper would have been so late. Regardless, it turns into a 1-rax expand, which, like I said, is kind of the good news. The barracks is still fairly late, so we have the command center yet turned into an orbital, and overall, this is a good start for Dark, no doubt about that. Dark, I do believe, is the favorite to win this particular best of 5. I don't know about the overall. GSL, like I said previously, Maru is probably going to win, and then I guess Dark is my solid follow-up, my runner-up. Like, the finals really could have been Maru versus Cure, though. But if Dark had to face Cure right off the bat, that would have been really, I think, ambiguous who actually wins that one. Obviously, if Dark had to face Maru right off the bat, then it'd be very different as well. But with the current setup, I think Dark should feel more comfortable against GuMiHo than the other Terrans that are in the round of 4. Now, that might not be totally accurate based off the last 2 months of GuMiHo's performance, that a Zerg player should feel comfortable against him, but even with his fantastic performance at Yangshiping, as well as, of course, getting to the round of 4 of GSL, I still don't believe GuMiHo has quite the GSL style that ensures victory. You know, Dark is not only very aggressive, but then is proven to have serious mechanics consistently to make it this far, usually pretty consistently. Again, I will argue that he was supposed to get this far in the last season, but then just dropped the ball somehow for some reason. But GuMiHo is still a little untested as far as the dependability of his play. So we know that he has awesome builds, and he's showing us a 2-base, 2-fact, Blue Flame Hellion build, so there you go. But as far as actually consistently performing well, that reputation belongs to other guys in the round of 4. Dark, Maru, and Cure. They pretty much always consistently perform well. I would love for GuMiHo to upset and actually be a finalist in the GSL once again, and I think him versus Maru would actually be quite interesting as well, since I believe it was this GSL season that GuMiHo actually placed first in his group, and Maru placed second. He defeated Maru. So that would be extremely interesting, but to get past Dark, who is a beast and is even more beastly in these offline tournaments, sometimes he can be a little more snipeable, I suppose, in some of the open cups, for instance. Now, when GSL comes around, Dark is definitely in the mood to win, and he usually stomps most of his opponents that he matches up against. So GuMiHo might just be the next stompee here. Or he might surprise the heck out of Dark with this Blue Flame Hellion opener. Dark does not have a Roach Warren, certainly the most dependable structure to have against Blue Flame. Queens can do a decent job, but then their problem is actually catching up with the damn things. And Lings can try and temporarily stop the Hellions from roaming around, but very much temporarily. We've seen pretty good defenses against these early Blue Flame Hellions before, however. There's actually about a month where every Terran was going for a, not proxied second factory, but a hidden second factory, which I believe is why Dark is even looking around here, because he is familiar with that. And initially, it was fantastic. It was working out brilliantly against Zerg players, and then it got kind of sour, and it stopped working, even if they hadn't scouted it. Even if they didn't scout it, the Zerg players got better, I guess, at basically the emergency holding against Blue Flame. It finally is going to make an appearance. I've been talking about it for a while, but it actually spent a little while longer than usual trying to actually get the damage done. Usually, if it's fast Blue Flame, it's really like a build. Like, you build 2 Blue Flame, and then you vroom across the map, and you go kill a bunch of shit. But in this case, it almost looks like an opener to a macro build. But keep in mind, this was 2 factory before 3rd CC, so it's definitely not the most macro build GuMiHo can do. As such, he really was supposed to do more damage with this. Dark is getting up to a Spire, which is a little unexpected, but he's been experimenting with this on Gressfon versus many Terrans, and not just the weird Terrans who could possibly going into mech. And with that sight on the Blue Flame, I believe Dark should know that it is mech. It's not actually impossible for Blue Flame openers to go into bio, but it is GuMiHo after all, so probably assume. Yeah, probably assume that it is going to be mech. GuMiHo is always bringing out one of his old school styles, actually. He didn't always include Blue Flame with this, but he was a mech player who absolutely freaking loved his Hellion double Thor medevac drop push. That would do a really good job against Zerg players. They did start to anticipate it, so they were getting better at defending it, and then mech fell off a cliff just general meta-wise, but it's pretty cool. It used to be my go-to opener for TVZ, and then I don't know. Hellion Banshee is so much easier, I guess. But yeah, we're gonna have a little bit of a push. Blue Flame included. Dark still doesn't have Roaches. He does have Mutas, but then hey, we had to get 2 Thors. And these 2 Thors are actually beautiful against the Mutas, but they also would have been totally fine against a Roach player as well. Not like, you know, not if they had enough Roaches, but the point is usually this would attack in such a way that the Zerg player would be a little under-defended, and then if they got enough resources together to defend, then they would have vulnerabilities at their bases, so the Hellions would run around and do damage there, while the Thors went and did some drop shenanigans. But it feels like GuMiHo's builds are constantly stopping before they really begin. The Hellions didn't really work out. The Hellion Thor thing I was talking about has been severely delayed. It's actually GuMiHo takes damage to 9 Banelings, or 9 SCVs, die 2 Banelings rolling through the natural, or 3rd base. And Dark might not have what we see as a typical composition versus a mech player. He certainly has the right type of game for the style that he has chosen, so initially opting for just a pure Ling defense into a handful of Mutas. He's not going to go crazy mass Muta. It's a little dangerous to do against the Master of Mech here, but yeah, initially this can be a vulnerable composition. But once you gain that map control, and once you gain your 4 bases, almost 80 drones, and you set up your tech transitions as well, I mean, now you're just controlling the game. GuMiHo is the one that's following along. And GuMiHo following along is not the worst thing in the world for him. After all, he is playing mech, and we see that more as a late-game composition. And since he's very close to actually getting over what I call the hump, the 150 supply, actually reaching over to your 4th base, I assume this game will be a pretty nice late-game TVZ, one in which GuMiHo would usually feel quite comfortable, but Dark is no slouch when it comes to late game in any matchup. Maybe, as I was saying in the last broadcast, maybe he's not literally the best late game Zerg player, but people brought it up and I absolutely agree. He's probably the best spellcaster user. And that goes a long way in late game ZPT. It's going to be a big old mid-game push here, though, from Dark, just looking for some quantity over quality. The medevacs microing the Thors makes this an additionally good hold. I don't see any tanks. If they were around, they're already taken down, and only Thors might be a little question mark to defend against all of this. Plus 20 SCVs go down as the Lings get into the 3rd CC. GuMiHo does have a 4th, and it is also an orbital, so he will be able to replace his economy rather quickly. But it looks like without the proper tank count, he has fallen to the Roach Ravager bust of his opponent. And a look of an eye, really. As soon as I figured GuMiHo was getting set up well and truly, he gets demolished. Actually, pretty much shy of that 150 supply, too. The upgrade, the Thors and their medevacs are really helpful in that situation, but would have been even more helpful is actually having them tracking the army. As it was, GuMiHo was almost unaware that he was about to be attacked, and it looks like this will in fact be game. A rather easy one for Dark as well, which is quite unfortunate. I really thought we were going to get into a long game. Let's see exactly when that bust happened. Yeah, literally as well. He did jump the 150 supply with his production, but pretty much exactly where I think Mech is the last, is vulnerable to a mid-game push. I think they're the last time mid-game push like this is actually really scary for a mech player is when they're around that 150 supply. But clearly the insistence on Thor is actually backfired on GuMiHo here. They're wonderful if you can micro them, almost like catching the army coming across the map with like Archons and a War Prism. Like then they can actually really help out, but we know that if someone is going to mass Roach Ravager, then tanks are generally the way to go, and only having 2 of them, which I guess they got bopped pretty quickly, is just not ideal. They weren't even part of like the majority of the fight too. Yeah, they were taking care of Lings. Lings were taking care of them is more like it. So completely unideal setup, as well as perhaps the unideal composition here from GuMiHo. Very unfortunate. That was supposed to be kind of a game that was going in his, not his favor, but just to a game that he would be good at. And it was stopped short by Dark's aggression. So Dark got to do exactly what he likes to do. In the bottom left of a Royal Blood, we do have the Blue Terran and GuMiHo. And in the top right, we got the Red Zerg, Dark, who nipped every bud. Every flower got nipped in its bud. Every flower. GuMiHo tried to proxy. That got nipped. He tried to do Blue Flame Hellion follow-up. That got nipped. He tried to do his Hellion Thor push-out. That got nipped. It was not an ideal situation for GuMiHo, but again, I think he was very close to getting to that position that he would still find himself comfortable, which is just over 150 supply, with enough to properly defend his 3-base setup with proper SimCity and acknowledgement of a push. And then there would have been a late game to play out because Dark, you know, did afford that entire army. So say that didn't work like it did, and then we go into, you know, okay, the Terran has to rebuild the army, but then Dark needs to worry about being out-teched and needs to get to a hive and spellcasters, so on and so forth. And Dark cut GuMiHo off of the pass. So that also got nipped. There were so many nips in that game for GuMiHo. He could take 4 nips, but the 5th one was the real killer. And that's going to be the dynamic between the two, no matter if GuMiHo goes for mech or bio, I anticipate. Dark is going to be the overall more aggressive one. Obviously, it's a little bit more difficult to say that in a ZVP where the Terran could 2-rack, so they could go for a 2-base Hellbat all-in or, you know, whatever. But I think Dark is going to be the one that kind of looks to smash GuMiHo's face with a rock. And then GuMiHo is going to be trying to do like some cool shit with like katanas and stuff. And it's like, you know, they got to respect the guy who's trying to use nunchucks for the first time, but the guy with the rock is probably just going to beat you over the head with it. And GuMiHo is nunchucking around, man. He's got that proxy barrack set up. This time, successfully set up, so that's the good news. Dark did pull drones before realizing this wasn't going to work out. And it's going to be maybe some damage. You know, the Fast Reaper can get a drone, but that's more on the side of the Zerg messing up than, yeah, actually being what it kind of deserves. Whoo, that was almost messed up right there. What? Never seen someone try to use nunchucks? If they're not a master, they're very bad with it. And GuMiHo sometimes can be a master. He brings out all the cool weaponry. The weaponry that you look up for like your D&D campaign, right? Because you don't want to just have like a sword. It's like, no, that's boring. Give me the manual. I want to see what else is like really cool here. And GuMiHo is that guy, and sometimes it works, but then Dark literally is just like bludgeoning weapon, let's go. Interesting to bring the Hellion this quickly. So this was a single barracks proxy. Perhaps he actually built the second barracks in the last game as a response to realizing the jig was up. I didn't really consider that, but that might have exactly been the case. So this is what he intended to do, is to get into a factory, which you can only get if your barracks actually finishes, and then coordinate this attack. Interesting stuff. Good focus fire there from Dark to grab one Reaper, almost grabs the second. So far, Queen's doing most of the work of the defense. One drone has gone down, a handful of Lings, but so far this proxy game is not working out. The Ling's even body blocking right there. Anticipating the Hellion retreats. Dark managed to get some Lings across the map. Didn't notice that. It's not too successful, but you know, the point is once again, it's just looking very poor for GuMiHo. GuMiHo is clearly trying to open out of the gates with something fierce and fast. He wants to topple Dark over and then continue on with the momentum for the game and the series, and that is a beautiful way to try and set up the best of 5 GSL semifinal that you're playing. Come up with something kind of new and fast and be like kind of muttering to yourself like, man, this will show this guy, this stupid Zerg player, he's not gonna get to the mid game anyways. But it's not working. And when this stuff doesn't work, it makes the person who designed it look quite the fool, doesn't it? Obviously GuMiHo is not a fool, and all it would take is a slightly different universe. It's like universe, you know, 1.1 as opposed to 1.0, and GuMiHo probably is looking like a freaking genius. But in this universe, Dark is slapping things down, easy peasy. It might sound dramatic considering this is only, frankly, a barracks and a factory on 2 bases, which is a normal build, so it's not the worst thing that it's not working, right? It still kind of is. It still kind of is, because this is really supposed to unsettle the Zerg player. Like, even if it doesn't do damage, like, well, let's say, like, a lot of direct damage. Let's say this Reaper Hellion thing doesn't get 10 drones or whatever it could if a Zerg player was very poor against it. Poorly defending it. If it at least forced Dark to, like, miss his Overlord, get a later third base, which often happens with Proxy Reapers, lose Lings unnecessarily, so they have to rebuild Lings to defend against further attacks. Like, if it does anything like that, then it's already so much more promising. But there really is a dramatic difference between immediately killing stuff and letting stuff linger on without taking like direct damage. All that indirect damage is important, and Dark has taken none of it. Like, no direct damage, really. Like, this doesn't really count. 2 Overlords actually I guess is kind of nice, but yeah. Yeah, no direct and no indirect, I would argue. The Battlecruiser follow-up would be 100% taking advantage of such a situation. Dark kind of scrambling around, trying to fix all the macro mistakes that have been caused because of the opener. And instead, Dark probably figures this is on the way. He doesn't actually have a full-on scout. All he saw was a tech lab on a starport. He didn't see the gases. He didn't see the fusion core. However, it's really not all that uncommon for GuMiHo to open up this way. And frankly, it's not that bad for Zerg players to defend this. Spore crawlers were positioned because, well, he did see the tech lab after all. So whether it was a Banshee or a Battlecruiser, it would have been helpful. And the Queen count that a Zerg player naturally gets in the development of a Zerg versus Terran usually does the trick. It is once again often a matter of something else. In a lot of cases with Battlecruisers, it's the matter of defending the Hellion run-bys, which are things that mostly got the damage there. 8 drones in total. I think the Battlecruiser got like 2 drones, 3 drones, and the Hellion's the rest. But that's still not, I would say, the worst damage for Dark to take, who is mostly the one in control of this game. As he deflects the Battlecruiser, he now has time and room to get his 3 bases properly set up. He does anticipate more Battlecruisers, so he is grabbing a Spire, usually a safe call against GuMiHo, who is usually, well, is more prone to being a mech player. This is actually not going to be mech, however, despite getting 3 Battlecruisers and Yamato, which is usually a telltale sign of mech. That's usually the 100%. If you see that, that's mech. It's not. We have GuMiHo, maybe his plan all along, or maybe trying to change things as he's going. He is going to be going into bio. 1-1 upgrades for his bio already on the way. And then we have Stim and Combat Shield soon. He's building the Tech Labs right now. 2 Yamatos, 2 dead Queens, but Spores are still available, Queens are still available, and most importantly, Corruptors are on the way, so the Spore will buy some time. And then the Corruptors will come out. They should have teleport. Yep, they absolutely do. GuMiHo is not foolish enough to teleport into the Zerg base. And there are the Corruptors. That very weak Battlecruiser is in trouble. Yeah, okay, good. I was a little worried he would not be paying attention as the Corruptors went over there. But now that should be repaired up. And you do still have 3 Battlecruisers that are very useful for defense. You also could be getting an overreaction from the Zerg player. They build too many Corruptors. I mean, you do need a decent amount to deal with Battlecruisers. So that's usually a problem. It's usually more of a problem if they showed 1 Battlecruiser and then the Zerg anticipated 3. And then they build, 12 Corruptors. Then that's a bit weird. But in this case, I doubt Dark will overinvest into Corruptors. The other problem would be if Dark thought that this was mech. But is that really a problem? Is that the right word to use? I don't think it's a problem. It might be a good thing for GuMiHo to be keeping his opponent in the dark. It usually is in StarCraft, but in mech or bio, Dark's build is fine against it. It's not like Dark is someone who's uncomfortable playing roaches against a bio player. Opposite, in fact, he's some of the best. So now he's got that confirmation that it is bio. And while the Corruptors do kind of lose the fight over here, not super worthwhile counterattack. Again, their numbers in the counts of 13 in a second are pretty perfect against someone who has 3 Battlecruisers. Mech or bio doesn't matter. The 3 Battlecruisers just have to be pushed away whenever they try and go for harassment. Or they go with the main push. I mean, that is possible. They don't usually consider bio the main push type of army, not until they're a bit later on in the game with more supply, but that's kind of where GuMiHo is heading, because he was so late to building bio anyway. He's heading more to a maxed out push, and maybe he is planning on bringing his Battlecruisers. But speaking of maxed out pushes, that's what Dark's been doing. Corruptor, Roach, Ravager. A breaking army from the Zerg player that usually breaks mech. But like I was saying, it breaks bio just as well. It's really not the wrong composition here, and GuMiHo's tactics are simply not working. Dark is just playing a rather simple game. GuMiHo is trying to be a puzzle master, and it's just not working out. He's like building a maze. And he's like, you're never gonna get through this maze, but the maze is made out of like paper, so Dark just like pushes through all the walls of the maze, and is like, yeah, I didn't need to go through the maze. It's fine, I can just do this. And that's what he's doing. He is literally just pushing GuMiHo until GuMiHo dies, because GuMiHo is going to die. That is for certain. Not enough Battlecruisers to hold on, not enough tanks to hold on, and not enough bio. Dark is all over this best of 5, leaving GuMiHo no chances, which is just too damn bad. I'm really hoping that GuMiHo can bring this back. And now for what could be, very quickly, the final game of this best of 5 series. In the bottom left, up 2-0, he is Dark. And in the top right, we do have GuMiHo, who I want to do better than this, 100%. This is going to make some... He's doing the same opener? I don't know, man. IDK. I don't know, Kev. It's weird. Anyway, if people don't really pay attention to a lot of StarCraft, and that's frankly something that happens with GSL viewers, and it's not a knock on them. It's just, it's kind of, when we are in our little bubble that we are, it can be difficult to imagine this, but there are plenty of people who only watch GSL. And if that was the case, they're watching this best of 5 happen, and they're like, I knew GuMiHo getting here was a fluke. Cha. And they're feeling very validated despite their completely incorrect analysis. But then, I wouldn't necessarily blame them for thinking that this is a player out of their depth. That's GuMiHo you know, maybe could have made it past the round of 8, but then doesn't necessarily deserve to be in the round of 4, you know? Like, I could see people defaulting that out, and it'd be hard to blame them if this game looks identical to the last 2. This doesn't really look like an even fight so far. But we know, you and I, Twitch chat, YouTube chat, because we're educated international viewers that don't watch only GSL, we know that GuMiHo can kick ass. Not just strategically, but also mechanically. And he's just not getting a show at this time around. Dark being maybe a little bit of like a rogue here, you know, like a little bit, kind of ruining the hype for all of us. But I think he's far better than Rogue in that regard. I feel like Dark doesn't often just slap away the fan favorite. And he himself, I think, is, well, frankly, cooler than Rogue, but it's whatever. So we have GuMiHo with, once again, a proxied barracks opener. This one as far out as possible, really. While still being technically called a proxy. Reaper into Marine. That Marine's going to go scout around to kill some Overlords. He went for multiple Reapers into that handling pressure last game, so this is different. And he might get an Overlord. But it is a maybe. The Overlord should be very close to pillars or some place where they can go to the high ground. And the barracks have to lift to go kill that, which will take a little while, so we'll see. One Reaper, hardly a problem, and it was, again, hardly proxied, so Dark should have the same defense as usual. It does look like he's being delayed on his third base a little bit, which he was not in the last game, I believe. He actually snuck that drone out before he got harassed. So, I mean, this is the type of just slightly more awkward thing that an opener like GuMiHo's can do that I would feel is important, is beneficial to GuMiHo. The amount of direct damage doesn't look that bad, but we do have Dark unable to obtain a third base. But maybe now he's just like, I don't need it anyways. He's going into a roach board. And then we do have him losing his Overlord, which is trying to go for a scout before it died, possibly because it knew inevitably it was going to die. A barracks is on the way to go ahead and get that high ground vision, and it's not like his speed would kick in to like punish an opening in the wall. So he chose to suicide the Overlord, basically. And the Overlord hardly caught anything, but it was going to die anyway. All it confirmed was that it was a factory, not like a second barracks, which, hey, would have been possible. I could see that being a GuMiHo build. But no, it's a factory. Nothing's going to see the second factory, however, as GuMiHo once again goes into potential Blue Flame opener, which is just so freaking unfortunate because Dark is going for a Roach Rush. What don't you want against roaches? Hellions. I mean, the Ling follow-up is often what really gets into every nook and cranny of the mineral line and decimates your SCV population. So Hellions can help out with that, but only if the roach isn't around. Like, something has to kill the roaches. So usually if you're going Banshee Hellion, then that can be a nice composition to have, provided that you scout your opponent is all-inning you. And that is also something that GuMiHo is missing. So no, like, emergency Widow Mines or a Cyclone, right? Or a tank. He's got a tech lab after all. No bunker to buy just a little bit more time. And even if he held, as in he could play this game out against this push, he would lose Tim. And that's still a pretty bad start for him. I do fear this is going to be a very quick and easy 3-0 in Dark's favor. GuMiHo just had no idea this was on the way. The Lings keeping him at home actually ended up being a big issue. And I guess his Reaper coming home as well at some point, not trying to sacrifice itself for that last second scout. It's going to end up killing GuMiHo as he does lose Stim. That seemed inevitable. Lings are even helping to take out some of the Hellions, and the Roach Ravager, most importantly, is still alive. One barracks is going to go down as well. Or is it? Well, I guess it won't, but then the SDVs will instead. And I mean, Dark's still making so many moves here. The fact that the original Roach Ravager is still going along. Oh, finally a tank popped. Finally. Yeah, it's just a bad sign. 8 SDVs went down. That is a third CC. So, yeah, provided that he saves it. He can rebuild his SDV count. And Dark is at a really low worker count. He actually did not go back into building workers. He is all-inning again. And with the second all-in, GuMiHo actually has a chance to hold here. The Hellion's still alive, taking out a lot of the Lings. The Corrosive Bile's not taking out the tank. One shot away from it. Second tank on the high ground's about to pop. The Lings still in action, however, and are starting to destroy those Hellions. And GuMiHo is going to tap out. And I actually am not sure that he had to. I mean, I was obviously a disbeliever in GuMiHo once I saw the Roach Rush on the way, but then looking at this follow-up, I actually feel like he could have held. Like, it would have. I brought up the whole Stim being canceled as being a particularly terrible opener, and it is, but I'm not sure he realized just how far down in drones Dark was. Also, his tank denying the Hellions access to the main was a bit of a dick move. I do say so myself. But he was still building Hellions and tanks. Like, his production was actually okay. And then he would have had a wall that would not have been busted super quickly. Another wall would have bought him. Well, yeah. I mean, he would have lost all those SCVs, and that's it's like 9 more SCVs that would have put Dark in the lead worker-wise. 3CC would have a tough time getting back on location. I mean, I think GuMiHo is actually dead, but not like super dead, you know? This is the game where you're thinking if there's a 10% chance to win, it's your last life in GSL. I feel like GuMiHo would usually play this out, but considering how much of a boppening the other 2 games were, and this one certainly probably felt like, because he just realized he got almost hard countered as soon as he saw the Roach Ravager, it is very understandable that he tapped out when he did. Very unfortunate first semis for the GSL. Dark now positions himself in the finals of GSL Season 2 for 2023, and he awaits the victor of Maru versus Cure. The second semifinal is here. In the bottom left, we do have the blue Terran Cure, and in the top right, we have the red Terran Maru. Very unfortunate first series of the day. GuMiHo getting bopped first in the actual game, and then a bit in his brain. Not the stellar results we were hoping for, which, I don't know, maybe GuMiHo never wins against Dark, but maybe the games would have been a lot more entertaining and a lot closer. And now we get to Maru versus Cure, and while Maru would, you know, be all too easy to bet on to win, I don't think anyone would really say that Maru dominates Cure right now. I don't think we're apprehensive about another very quick 3-0 despite Maru's prowess in TVT. Cure has always been one Terran who's gotten close to defeating Maru in a full series. He beats them in individual games frequently and goes into very, very long games with Maru as well in those series. So even if it is a 3-0 in their history, I don't know. Probably all 3 of those games are very close and even went up to like 20-30 minutes type games. That's been the Cure versus Maru dynamic. A lot of the previous times they've played, from Maru being literally untouchable in TVT to finally losing his first TVT after like 40 series wins, to being a little shakier in the matchup and losing to the likes of GuMiHo, for instance. And then we're all here. So just a couple of weeks after he lost to GuMiHo actually in a TVT. And Cure has remained steadfast, a very dependable Terran player whose average skill is basically second place GSL, which, I mean, sounds like I'm making fun of him actually, because I'm like, well, you're good enough to be second place, but seriously, like, he is consistently good enough to always be at least second place, there you go, in a tournament. And, you know, the matter of actually making it to be first and winning the championship is a matter of, you know, does he face Maru? Does he face maybe like a Dark, like a really good Zerg? And then it's a bit more question mark. But against everyone else, Cure's pretty much the victor. So Maru, still the favorite to win overall, but Cure is ripe for an upset. Especially as he opens up with the proxy barracks, immediately takes down Maru's first Reaper. That is an excellent sign for early Reaper aggression. That was actually a big mistake on Maru's part to let that die. Obviously, it was very last-second micro, but ideally you pull that first Reaper back to the SCVs and let them tank a little bit just to avoid the snowball effect. The good news for Maru is that this was not a proxy 2-rack, since if it was, he would have been screwed with the first Reaper death. It is only a single proxy. The other one is at home. So that little bit of extra time, a little bit of a delay on the second and fourth Reaper is huge give him the production that he needs to hold on here. 2 Hellions now available should do the trick. 1 was a little suspect. 2 is pretty damn good. And that means that Kira is not going to get any type of snowball effect despite the opening Reaper kill. Natural's on the way for Cure as Maru's started building after the factory, so his will still be faster unless he really gets contained here, which is unlikely. Usually the Hellion count builds up to 3 or 4 and then can deal with most counts of Reapers. The command center is going to be delayed, so there is that. And we do have the good old-fashioned just run through the SCV line, kill as many SCVs as possible. Cure's Hellion even distracting Maru's units from getting to the real troublemakers, which were the Reapers, finally taken down with the help of an SCV surround. 9 SCVs go down for Maru, and that delay in the command center also hurting, as it is also not on location, so it is severely delayed. And Cure's will probably match his opponents at this point. Well, maybe not match, but with an 8-worker lead, he'll certainly have the economic advantage, even if his command center ends up being an orbital a little bit later. And Kira's follow-up is also, of course, good. He's got a Cyclone already. It's going to defend any attempt for Maru's counter-attack to do some return SEV damage, especially as Maru only has 1 Reaper, you know, something that can actually access the main base. And that won't even grab the SCV build in the starports, but what are being grabbed? Oh, I was so confused. I was like, that's a red SCV. Yeah, more SCVs are going down for Maru. This is a terrible game for Maru. And after the last 7 SCVs have just gone down here, I think it's actually tap out time. Maru not going to tap out. Being down 14 workers, a further delayed command center because Kira's barracks landed. Cheeky. He's pretty dead. Maru not often one in the last, like, 5 years, I suppose, to be one who taps out too quickly. And even maybe often goes a little bit more to, like, the, staying a little bit longer than some other people, like, sometimes. But it is game 1 of the series, and there is certainly an argument to be made about kind of like cutting your losses and getting a fresh start again. But then some people are very much more on the idea of like, well, if I can get something done here, then I'll feel better going into the second game. And that's, I feel like, where Maru's at. Because Maru is definitely a great comeback Terran. We know that. He's the one that really, I think, showed the way in how to bring TVT to a 30-minute state from a dead 8-minute game. But it usually relies on him getting up to 3cc. That's basically the point in which Maru can make any comeback happen. Anything less than that, and he takes this much damage, yeah, even he is usually incapable of losing. Of winning, sorry. Kira would have to also add in a couple of mistakes himself to allow Maru back into this game. And unfortunately for TVT, Kira can't really try and rush the end game. He can't go and send all of his units across the map and say like, well, I'm definitely winning so I can finally kill you. He's gonna have to wait a while. It'd be no use in trying to stay on like 2 bases, for instance, and trying to win the game. You're only allowed the production that you have, which actually they are matching, and certainly with the help of mules, they're not that far behind in actually producing units. And then should you be denied victory after committing to a 2-base attack, because tanks are good, then you've just, you know, you've fallen behind. So then now is the time to get further ahead. Now is the time to get to the 3rd CC for Cure, and to the faster stim, and to more production. And then he can go and try and kill Maru. Which means that Maru will have a certain amount of time to do his best recovery ever. So, what is it, 3 minutes, I guess, before Stim, Combat Shields, and Medivacs are all out? And his choice here is going to Mech, which I think is a really good choice. It's not always the choice of Terrans who are behind, but it is often, I suppose, a choice when it's behind this early on in the game. Even if you were to fit in Stim to your build, just to be like, oh, I got Stim in an okay time, you would have far fewer Marines. So, I mean, you really got to get the units with the splash, try and hold on to much area with very few units, and then you maybe have a chance. A Banshee did pop out for Maru. Don't believe it has Cloak, so it's going to get taken down by the Cyclone. Kills 4 SCVs. Kind of worth the cost of the Banshee, kind of. I'd say 6 is where a cloakless single Banshee starts to feel quite nice, actually. Akira is ready to go. I said, you know, waiting till combat shields, but he's not going to wait for combat shields. I think that's totally fine. He has Marine, Tank, Raven. Medivacs are on the way. Stim to pounce on opportunities when he sees them and to fan out a little. But without combat shields, it means that when he does stim to fan out or pounce, he will get blasted by a single tank shot. And Maru really is trying his best to set up the perfect coverage of tank fire to defend his 3 bases. Little Scouts was just destroyed there, so Maru knows that an attack is incoming. He's ready to go. Can't really stop that tank from dying, of course, but had his Viking Raven combination also ready to tango. And that was going to move his tanks over. The actual buildings in range of Kira's tanks are not super important. An engineering bay plus the refinery, I think, also as well. But most importantly, Maru managed to grab the number of tanks they did alongside a superior Viking count. Not by much, but maybe it doesn't matter, actually. The interference may just come down on Maru's tanks. 3 out of 4 taken out of the equation. Kira's tanks also taken out of the fights, and it looks like the rest of the units of Kira, the fodder, did get taken down, so it cannot overwhelm the remaining tanks of Maru. But okay, I spoke too soon. Reinforcements were on the way. Overwhelming still in effect. Combat shields also finally done, and that 3rd CC needs to be mass repaired. The SCDs realize it. They get back to mining, but Maru now is being attacked really on 2 different angles. I guess this is less of an attack, but it's still something to worry about. And obviously the Marines over on the left side could be potentially going over into that main base. The Vikings are a little scared to do that, but you know, the Vikings just landed. Nah, he's not going to bother. He's going to hold him on to the left side and just again set up these potential attacks that Maru has to consistently worry about. You know, if he dove into the main base, maybe he would have delayed this 4th command center, but then he would have lost all of his units, and then Maru would have had a bit of an easier time preparing for the next wave. Could have been what happened, but now Kira just, you know, literally waits. He could dive in on the tank, on the SCVs. He could still go into the main base after all. Or he could pair the units up with further reinforcements and then have more of an army on the left side than Maru was anticipating. Because right now, Maru doesn't know what size army is where. So he doesn't know that 3 medevacs are about to enter into his natural. Now he does, and that scan was the alert, but Maru can only move so fast. As no tanks are in the main base, some are about to pop. One of them will not be quite enough. That's a lot of Marines, even Marauder added in as well. They got their upgrades all finished up, and the Marines could even try and target fire some of the Ravens or the Vikings. Not going to bother. Go after the reinforcing tank and open up a pathway to the top. 19 SCVs have died. Maru on 4 bases could replace that, but can he also get the army required alongside replacing the SCVs? That is the conundrum. I'm going to guess he won't be able to. Kira's macro behind this has been incredible. 4th CC turning into a planetary as he has almost 30 more workers than his opponent after killing so many, and his 2-2 is already halfway done. He could also start to think about transitioning over into like Viking Liberator, which basically Maru's genius, which, you know, proved to be very good in his comebacks, was literally his knowledge of late game inevitability. He literally looked at the TVT matchup and said, you know, on 3 bases, I can afford just enough on the ground that I can then put the rest of my resources into Vikings and stop you from ever making that air transition, well, an easy air transition, I should say. And so Maru is doing that. But Kira could still look to go into the air game. He absolutely could. No doubt about it, his economy is superior, and his positioning is superior. And so if he really wanted to, he could slap down 3 extra starports, all with reactors, go up to 14 Vikings, add on 2 Liberators, and then boom, Maru can't do much about that. But he could also just continue maxing out on bio. All the options work, and you can see that he is getting all of the options as extra starports are on the way. Fusion core as well for the Lib range initially. And Maru will try and anticipate that. He'll try and do his best to stop that from being the end game as he continues to add on Vikings, but he's adding only 1 Viking at a time. It's not even that impressive. The other drop into the main base, because why not? Armory gets destroyed. It's going to take out the +1 vehicle plating that would have helped the Vikings as well. And we got an attack on the left, too, as 3 medevacs drop on top of all of Maru's tanks. Kira's got this in the bag. He's had it in the bag for quite some time. And he would have had to have made a very silly, stupid mistake to throw this one away, such as 5 medevacs right into all these Vikings. And then that might be a big enough throw. But at this point, that would not be a big enough throw. That would have had to have happened 2 minutes ago. Even if that were to happen now, Kira would still have an undeniable lead. As he now breaks through the tank line on third base. Officially, that is going to be Kira's game number 1. In the bottom right, we do have the Red Terran Maru, now down a game. In the top left, Neo-Humanity, it is Cure. So we had Maru get behind and then get really behind, and then he's still trying to play that game out. Sometimes playing it out is what makes you feel better. It does also give some insight into how your opponent is playing that particular day. Certainly Maru generally knows how Cure plays. They do face each other a decent bit. It could go from something a little more passive to a little more aggressive based on the day. Probably based more on the map, but still. And so Maru actually played that one out. Maru's confidence in his ability to make comebacks is also pretty freaking high, I would suspect, and deservedly so. So, while again, I would say that that is the exact situation in which Maru cannot make a comeback happen, even Maru can't, he might disagree. He might just be like, no, I've done it before. And I could certainly see that, but perhaps against a lesser Terran than Kira, because Kira is coming in as probably the number 2 Terran, with some fluctuations depending on some killer runs, such as GuMiHo and Yangchpin. It is Maru going for 2 racks this time. It's going to show Kira how it's actually done. And Kira is going for a 1 racks expand. Now, if Maru had proxy 2 racks, Kira would be dead. But fortunately for Kira, Maru is not proxying any barracks whatsoever. So the 1 racks expand will be alive. I didn't want to use the word safe because I'm not sure it'll be safe, but it will be alive. Kira's lack of scouting with his 1 racks expand is also very dangerous. Very dangerous indeed. He does kind of cut into his greed a little bit by going for a high ground command center. And there's like 2-3 things you can do, I guess, to make the 1 racks expand not as greedy as it can be. The greediest 1 racks expand is on location command center with no SCV scout. And then SCV scout with it a little less greedy, command center on the high ground a little less greedy, command center on the high ground and an SCV scout. Kind of wondering why he did a 1 racks expand in the first place. That means that Kira only has to worry about his high grounds, which there are no Reaper hop-ups available now, I believe, with the factory blocking it off. So this is a build order counter, a building counter. So Maru cannot get much done with the initial Reapers. The good news is, for Maru, is that the 2 racks in base opener for TVT doesn't really have to do damage. It's not expecting nearly as much as Kira's single proxy barracks, or again, 2 proxy barracks. This 2 racks at home can then just lead into a 2-1-1, which is probably what Maru was thinking, and something that he has been doing more frequently in this season of GSL. He did it versus TY a few times, which I thought was just a response to TY, but then he also did it versus GuMiHo, so he does just seem to be liking it. And it has its weaknesses, which GuMiHo was able to exploit, TY was not, and so Cure, having for sure studied the games in which GuMiHo won versus Maru, would, soon as identifying this is actually happening, which he just did, these 2 Reapers stuck on by, would be able to... That's not a wall, that's not a wall. I was totally wrong about that, wasn't I? I feel like it was, and then he moved to Tech Lab. Huh, well that might have just killed Cure. I feel like more SCV should be going down soon. There we go. There it is, there it is. But then Cure's own 2 Reapers are doing so much damage as well. They finally get caught by the SCV surround, but thank goodness for those Reapers, or... F those Reapers? I'm not sure, because if those 2 Reapers were at home, they might have been able to help out against the 4 Reapers that killed his SCVs. But then 2 Reapers doesn't beat 4 Reapers, so I don't... The point is, they both do almost equivalent damage. Cure comes out a worker ahead, actually. His 2 Reaper backstab not only killed a good number of workers, but it also got that scout that I was just talking about, kind of confirming a little more of Maru's intentions, which I thought was a 2-Rex, or 2-1-1, sorry, but actually, still no add-ons to Maru's bases, so Cure would have picked up on that faster. And he's now getting that second scout as well to confirm. So, I mean, this is pretty important. This is pretty important. This could have been directly into a 2-1-1 Tech Lab reactor, building up that stim, getting to the reactor at Medivacs as well. And then that's a very different pace of the game, seeing as it is going to be more of a 1-1-1 focus. Because you usually have a reactored single barracks, not 2 unreactored barracks. It's basically 1-1-1 production. Yeah, Cure can have a more knowledge about how Maru was going to play this series out. And so you will not fear the Medivacs floating around trying to kill you. Speaking of Medivacs being killed, Medivac did go down, but the Viking will exchange its life for it. That's what Cure was hoping would happen. And then, oh, hey, what's this over here? Oh, hey, hold on. Cure grabbed the Viking, and it looked like it was as simple as, oh, okay, 1 for 1. I guess we both just walk away from each other. But actually, there's further implications. Cure's insistence on killing the Viking has led him to have the air superiority. Pretty cool. It's not much, but it's a decent living. There's literally just 1 Viking, and 1 could pop out for Maru at any time. And Cure doesn't even want to abuse that position anymore. Perhaps he is assuming that another Viking was bound to be on the way, so he anticipated losing that high ground. Not actually the case. That Viking was a little ways off from Maru. But another position can be abused. Cure's 3rd CC is up and running. He is going to, at the very least, deny Maru's placement of his 3rd CC. Obviously, shouldn't actually kill it. Maru, despite having that 2 barracks opener, is as late to stim as Cure will be. So again, very much more like it was a 1-1-1. And Cure is even going to land his Vikings. A little dangerous to do. He does scan his army, the army of his opponent repositioning. And he is going to swivel those tanks around, start target firing his opponent's tanks. Reinforcing tank comes in here with its actual normal DPS is a considerable help, and Maru with a complete mishandling of that game. Are we going to have another bop? I said that Maru would be more likely to, but I doubt it'll happen. It didn't really just pass my mind that Cure would be the one bopping Maru. Hello? But I think this happened last season, didn't it? Maru looked like he was on the ropes, and then he was able to bring it back. I wonder if he'll do the same thing here in this best of 5. In the top right of altitude, we do have the Blue Terran Cure. Bottom left, Maru. And Maru is down 2 games. He's on his last life in the GSL semis. Cure looking at the finals, preparing to take on Dark. Not quite yet, he gets to kill the guy, but you know, he's getting very, very close. Maru has a history of making comebacks happen either in individual games or in series. He's got the tenacity of a true Terran player. I was wondering what the results have been recently. Maru did most recently win against him, and that was the last GSL finals, in which Cure looked like he was having a pretty good start, if I recall correctly, but ended up favoring Maru. Maru really needs to get a cleaner game going for him, because that's really what's not been happening, is he has not been able to get a clean game. But I would say that if Maru really was playing his absolute best, even those games as forced errors were made, it wasn't all just him playing poorly, I feel like he would usually recover quicker from them. So Cure surprising him with a proxy barracks in the first game, it's understandable Maru would be a little late to microing his Reapers. We'd lose the first one. But I would usually say if Maru is on point, he doesn't, even if he's surprised. Or in that second game, when things got a little topsy-turvy with the Reaper SCV exchange, I would say that Maru on his best days would still be able to roll out of that macro-wise much better than he did. Even if he is facing Cure, even if he is facing the guy that does like most reliably take him down, I would say Maru on his best day would still be doing a lot better. So might still be warming up a little bit. Z is going to a factory expand, as is Cure. This might be the first game in which Maru is happy with how they both settled on their build orders. He doesn't get surprised by a more aggressive Cure than anticipated, like game number 1. And he doesn't get surprised by a more greedy Cure in game number 2. Obviously, Cure's greediness in the opening of game 2 didn't really result in much as far as like interrupting Maru or doing damage to Maru. But the fact that Maru scouted that and then said, okay, I have to punish this somehow, might have put a little more obligation on Maru's shoulders, which might have made him do something differently, maybe. And now you literally both go for a factory expands and you both go for similar add-on production cycles. So it's not someone going for 5 Reaper 3 Howland and you going for 1-1. I mean, this is the most basic game you're going to get. It could still be a Reaper SCV trade, and that could still go unfavorably for Maru, but yeah. Nothing will unsettle him to start with. He did go for an SCV scout, so he knows this. Here, not doing the same thing. He's a little more in the dark, but with the high ground being available on the natural, thanks to this ramp on altitude, Cure is feeling rather confident in his ability to defend whatever Maru is doing, whether it is a factory expand or not. Factory expand could lead into that multi-Reaper, multi-Hellion pressure, but high ground ramp, pretty good. Wouldn't mind, pretty good. And Cure, at this point, timing's gone for that possibility. Picking up his medevac, no problem. Not worried about much and looking to do damage to Maru's side of the map. Maru is going into Cloaked Banshee, which is always a little bit of surprise, and that's basically why it ever works. It's actually kind of not supposed to work, but when people do it, you don't expect it. It's like missing your DT timing by a full 60 seconds. It's like, it's not good, but it's very unexpected. So that's something. And so for Cure, if he doesn't get it to the main base to scout this, he could lose a lot of SCVs to 2 Banshees pairing up together. The Banshee might have to be used to help defend, however, and yeah, there's the scout for you. Cure will not find too much more damage with the Banshee raining down from above, but 4 SCVs to start with on a very like non-committal drop. I would say he's pretty good, as long as the medevac escapes. Yeah, it will escape. Or will it? Yes, it will escape. Boost. Thank goodness for boost. Otherwise, that Cyclone was about to catch it. And that Cyclone ain't stopping. Maru is actually going to turn this into a bit of a push. Maybe. Now he decides to let that Banshee go. Go and pair up perhaps with its sister that just popped. And then 2 SCVs blitzing through SCV lines. 2 Banshees blitzing through SCV lines. Will do some damage even if Cure is waiting for it. Because you never know if they're going to come in from the left side or the right side. And just the Banshees in the mineral line, even as they're dying, could do a lot of damage. But hold the phone here. We got Maru dedicating to more than just 2 Banshees. He's got them pinwheels on the way. He's like a little kid in that like little hat, you know, that spins around. He's got his like little pinwheel and he's like... He's gonna go for multiple Banshees. Not something you usually see in TVT. Maru really mixing it up after taking 2 losses in his 3rd game, his last life. This is the time he mixes it up. It's a bit bold. It is a bit bold, but it might just work. Banshee number 1 gonna get a lock on. The Cyclone will not. Yes, it will. It will kill it. How did I ever doubt that? So that wasn't the best use of the first 2 Banshees I've ever seen, but the trick is that it's not only the first 2 Banshees. Usually at this point, the defensive Terran would go, oh, okay, you suck. Like, the 2 Banshees don't work, you're down to 1. Like, it's not gonna do anything to me. But Cure doesn't actually know what Maru's plan is, and that's not just more Banshees, but also speed on them, and good old-fashioned mech. Something that, you know, may have been forced in the first game, but now seems also could have been his initial plan for game number 1. This is certainly not a forced mech situation. It's Maru currently getting some insight into what his opponent is doing. Cure, yet again, choosing not to really focus on scouting. Oftentimes that scouts for professional players happens while they are engaged on the map. they're much faster and more consistent than the rest of us. But sometimes, especially with assumptions, even the pros miss out on a very important scout for a very long period of time. You know, it's still a point in which if Kira now knows, like, he'll still be okay. But if he doesn't know it's mech for the next 2 minutes, and then it's like, oh shit, it's mech, well, then it's gonna be terrible for him. He's gonna have the wrong tempo set in the game. Okay, good. He does scan. That's why he canceled what he was making. Because I was going to say, the wrong tempo is often set... Whoop, goodbye, Cyclone. By not having the right add-ons. So you build nothing but reactors with your one tech lab, and then you go, oh no, it's mech. And while Marine Tank Raven could still bust a mech player, you usually would be wanting to follow up with... more Marauders, faster expansions, faster upgrades, all the good stuff. These 3 Banshees did not just decide to go for the expected kills on the SCVs. They have now grabbed a Cyclone and 2 tanks. However, we do have Kier's drop in the main base, killing 7 SCVs, already being pretty worth it as the medevac will go down. Just focus on the rest of the SCVs, 11, 12, 13, probably upwards of 15. Oh, he's up focus firing, actually. Could have been 15, but he went back to focusing back at home because these Banshees are being a real nuisance. 3 tanks have died? Whoa, that is getting close to inexcusable, actually. The speed Banshees were a surprise, so we gotta let Kier lose something to that surprise. But 3 tanks? Most Banshee players wouldn't even dream of getting close to the tanks. The fact that Maru actually killed 3 of them is really important for that. That just takes out so much of the anchor of Kier's pushes. Because if he can push, leave 4 tanks over here, and then use his bio elsewhere, that's very different than literally, you know, 1 tank. Which, why even leave it by itself? You don't. Well, you don't leave tanks by yourself no matter what, I suppose, because Maru does still have his Banshees after all. But still, very different. It's literally just 4 more. 3 more expensive units out of this potential bust. Add in 3 more tanks here, and could Kier actually break it? It's possible, but I do not believe that the army that he has right now can do it. Yep, definitely not. He also, unfortunately, loses the air control as his last Viking will go down. Guaranteed. Maru would have had 1 Viking controlling the air, and that still would have been a great help. 3 tanks on siege coming in, could have been able to clear out these last 2 tanks, opening up a position to then siege here and then harass the natural and prepare for an engagement at the 3rd. And instead, Kier goes for it and is defeated in the battle, forced to entirely retreat. And that means that Maru has secured himself on 3 bases, in fact, almost to 4 bases now. And this is a terrible situation for a bio player. They need to be the ones on a faster expansion process, ready to go for another engagement pretty much right off the bat. If they're not ready to go for another engagement, they want to have, you know, at least a 20 army supply lead. And then maybe they get a faster max out and then they push. It's an even supply, lower base count bio player. That's absolutely terrible. Maru's mech looks like it's going to work out here, much thanks to the Banshees. The original 2 weren't that impressive, but the next 3 that were made really added a lot to this game for Maru, as he has the defenses in every single base that I can see here. Some SimCity also a nuisance. Those missile turrets getting any shots on the medevac, surprisingly annoying. Kier's attack on the right side, just seconds too late to actually get this planetary. If this was only beginning to turn into a planetary, maybe he would have jumped on top of those 2 defensive tanks. But planetary done, and Maru's reinforcements pretty close at hand. Kier cannot make any maneuvers to shut down Maru's continued expansion process, and a mech player on 4 bases is comfortable for quite some time. Sure, Kier could probably deny a 5th base for an extended period, but it doesn't matter. That's not Maru's goal right now, and it's not going to be his goal for a little while. Especially as I think he has realized he's so much faster to even having the damn 4th base. He knows he is quite comfortable. 5th will nonetheless come down, but he, yeah, would not be too much in a hurry to get that slap down on location. Drop in the main base from Kier, just unsuccessful. Missile turrets, good unit to have. He scanned Kier's intentions as well. Saw the additional starports and knows that air could be a problem. Rather than just hope that he wins the Viking War, he will add a couple of grounds to air units, Thors, right? With transformation mode, transformation servos. And so he'll be pretty much locked up tight on a maxed out mech army that could deal with an air problem like well enough. You know, if Kira was winning in the air, which he soon will be. He's gonna have 15 Vikings in a couple of seconds. That doesn't mean that he wins. He's gonna need to take the air superiority and bring some Liberators into the game, usually with their range. And then you can also tackle the Thors of your opponent. But Maru really has the perfect army for the situation. Kira not even trying to stop it. He didn't get a chance to stop it. So it is going to siege up right on top of his third base before he's really ready to go. Yes, he will win the air war, as I said, but those Thors should be coming along, and we still don't have any Liberators. So what does Kira even win the air war to really do? Nothing at all. Now he's building Liberators, and this is not him realizing he needed them. It's him doing exactly what he needed to do in the time that was allotted to him, and that time wasn't enough. He had let control of this game too early on by taking that damage from the Banshees. Those Banshees don't do that, and then the follow-up attacks are a little bit better, and he's a little more on the ball, and he denies Maru's fourth while getting a faster fourth himself. It would be very likely that he would actually reach Viking control with Liberators before this push happened. But with everything in the first 10 minutes, you can see that Kira had no chance to fit everything in that he needed. And that will be it, despite the last-second SEV pull and the last-second Liberator hold. It's not much of a hold. GG. Maru begins the comeback. In the top right, still up in the series, he is Kira. On the bottom left, we do have a Maru. So Maru finally able to display his mech. Don't know if the Banshee idea was what he was going to do in the first game, but he was so behind in that first game, we would never really know. In the last game, the Banshees worked out freaking perfectly. They may not have gotten the SEV kills like you would expect, but getting 3 tank kills instead, and a Cyclone, and some SEVs, is maybe even better. Maybe. Killing 20 SEVs would also have been pretty good, but the fact that then Maru could defend his hometown so easily is quite important, because his bases weren't really going to be under fire, under threat, necessarily, if Kira did break him, kind of in this little situation here on the other map. But his home turf would have been under fire, and then it's kind of like the second game, which is that Kira just has options. Maru doesn't know what trigger is going to be pulled. It could be the attack that's waiting here, or it could be a drop it into the main base. But instead, he just repelled that, and then it was easy peasy. It was a breezy game for Maru, who from that point on kind of got to play almost like he was versus AI. You know, he just built up his build, and got his army, got maxed out, and pushes across the map. And Kira's the one that was trying to suddenly catch up on everything. There's only so much that you can do to catch up in StarCraft, especially without, you know, Protoss technology. Chrono Boost would be nice, but instead we have robots that mine. I'll take the robots that mine, honestly. Chrono Boost isn't that impressive. Ooh, this is not just a 2-rax, it is a 3-rax. Eh-ho-ho. Unfortunately for Kira, none of this is proxied. Which, if it was, and it was still hidden, it would have done well. But that is the important thing here. Maru did not SCV scout. I'm an amazing commentator. Maru did SCV scout. He didn't make the foolish mistake of assuming that Kira will play some straight up macro games. 1-rax expand every single time. Because that would be foolish to assume. No Terran player should be doing a 1-rax expand every single time. But what Maru cannot see with that SCV is how many barracks. So it very well could be a factory expand. It could have been 2-rax, or it could have been a 3-rax. And so far, Maru is only aware now of the possibility of 2 barracks. But with his own double Reaper production, Hellion production, and straight up Defender's advantage, Kira has to go all across the map here with his units. Maru should be fine. His command center might not be fine, but he himself should be fine. Well, yep. Kind of need to build those units all together. That's the awkward part, but there they go. Everything pops out at once, and Cure is actually a bit on the run there. Does return to deal with the Reapers, which are very low, and now actually gets on top of the Hellions. The Concave working out well for Cure right there, as this Reaper is still injured. More Reapers of Cure coming forward here, and he does find some of that momentum. Uh-oh. SpaghettiOs. Maru now in a little bit of trouble. He's down in workers. His command center is no longer building, and he has not enough units. Cure not knowing he could jump up to the main base right now. If he did, I think he actually would have won. He's going to settle for canceling the natural, which, I mean, that is a good settle. All right. That's a fine settle right there, but it is still kind of settling. There was one Reaper for a hot second. One Reaper, one Hellion, I think, for a hot second. Only now is it 2 and 2. Like, that could have been a lot spicier. Kira is not yet done building Reapers. 11 seems like an extreme amount. 8 for a backstab is still a lot. 11 is a lot. I don't know about this one, but he does grab that Concave yet again, making the Hellions a little less impactful. Decides not to stick around, however, and just skedaddles was got the opportunity. Again? Could that have been a scenario where he actually just concaves and wins? Very hard to say because Maru also had grenades. So that would have been popping off every which way. And then more importantly, Kira had no idea what was following that up. He doesn't know if the Hellions are still being built, if there's a Viking or a Liberator being built going across the map, or a Banshee, obviously, it has been built. So now he has 10 Reapers, which are once again going to get up onto the high ground. They do have a Concave, and they should take this battle. Yes, indeedy, they will. But Kira has another problem to worry about. That Banshee is heading across the map, and he doesn't have any anti-air. He spent so much time building up these Reapers, trying to go for this strike, that perhaps not accommodating with the possibility of a Banshee. As he kills 9 workers, his own workers will be under fire. First Marines only now popping out. Kira only now adding on a tech lab to his factory. The Reapers of Kira are being picked off by the Banshee that popped out defensively. Maru will take more SCV damage, at least for now. But Kira is still taking SCV damage, and that is the difference. As long as Kira continues taking SCV losses, Maru will have a chance to even up this game. The Banshee, not able to escape. But another Banshee could still add more damage. That Cyclone's still not out. Even if it was out, it doesn't know where the Banshee is going to be coming in from. It won't have the detection unless Kira holds on to a scan, which means that he's not muling. So that's also some damage being done to Kira. And Maru is actually going to push out with a very, very small army, but nonetheless an army. A Reaper is found out, actually, or finds the Reapers, however you want to put it. Maru's command center finally on the low grounds. And I guess denying the Reapers the further backstab opportunities is a good thing. And now the Banshee will just pair up with the still very small army. Kira's army is bigger in quantity, but quality-wise, it's not the most impressive. It does feel like it's just about the right army to deal with this, but oh, he didn't realize there was a tank there. Almost loses the Cyclone. Fortunately, the Cyclone lives, but then again, so does the Banshee. Maru gonna hold on to this position, and things could get even worse. Nipping this in the bud would be the best solution, but Kira not realizing. Didn't really get the setup here, and now it's 2 Banshees. Frankly, their DPS is considerable in this type of fight. If Kira had gone into a more typical TVT, he would have had fewer Marines, but, maybe 2 Cyclones and a couple of tanks. Maybe he would have had more Vikings or more Ravens, but because he did open up 3 racks, his priority has been building barracks units. And barracks units don't break out of this very quickly. Oh my god, lift the command center, lift it. Oh, but Jesus, why did you lift the command center? Oh my god. Cure. He really thought that was enough SCVs. Oh, what a blunder. Oh, no. Because with the command center alive, he actually is still fine in this game. That was a huge mistake. And it was only somewhat forced, if I'm being honest. Like, of course, it's a very fast game, and Cure's trying to make sure that everything else that he's doing is working well, but that was... I'm not saying I would have done any better, 100%, but fortunately, the majority of my time watching StarCraft is watching professionals. And based on that, I would say most of the time the professional would have lifted. They gotta be a little cruel to Cure here. That was a mostly unforced error, I would argue. And it's a huge one. It puts him from a probably still good position to an all-in or die position. Kier's all-in might still be something worth talking about. He does have Stim, about to finish up combat shields. And Maru is going to be contained on 2 bases for a little while longer against such a composition. He's got to be very wary of being caught off guard and caught out of position. This is where his Banshees once again really do help. If they can track airdrops, even if they can just like be here and see an airdrop coming in, that's helpful. If they can be on top of a drop as it drops, then they're killing Marines as they unload. Like, it doesn't even look like Cure's going to try and hold on to the position anyways. He doesn't seem to think there's a reason to stay on the other side of the map. He does have the missile turret back home, so it's not like his SCVs would have been under fire, but I guess his buildings still could be. 3 Banshees going to take down both reactors of Cure. Take away the one production benefit that he has. And a good last-second split there from Maru to just, buy some time. Maybe one Banshee will survive. Cure is trying to check. Oh. Whoopsie-daisy. Like, this is still kind of close. That drop did occur in the main base, but unfortunately looks to have landed right in the tank fire. Maru lost 9 SCVs, so he's still behind by 4. And his last Banshee... That wasn't the last Banshee, it's this one, this freaking one from earlier. Yeah, this is still a game to be played out, but Maru's 3rd CC is finishing up here as Cure just only begins his, also only beginning his natural command center orbital again. And what Maru doesn't have is Stim and combat shields and his own medevac, so he is still on the kind of more safe 2-base setup for a little while longer. Definitely has to give credit to Cure's ability to build up a fine army. Especially in TVT where you both have mules, although Cure only had 1 mule at a time. But also, I guess more importantly, relatively cheap units. Marines with their upgrades, even in smaller numbers, can wreak a lot of havoc. So... yeah, if Maru waits a little while, plays this game out wisely, then of course he'll be winning the game. But assuming you're ahead because you killed an orbital so far ahead that you could just slap your 3rd CC down as soon as you want, that would be incorrect. And Kier is making sure to stop that 3rd CC from ever being comfortable on location. Kier's own 3rd CC might then match Maru's. Maru is getting closer and closer to having the army that actually breaks out of this position. He's working on his upgrades, combat shields, perhaps most importantly. And his tank count with the Viking superiority can be placed around. Once he deals with this anyway. Gonna grind, snipe that Raven, he gets it. That's gonna be for 2 Vikings. Not too bad, not too bad. The Raven being taken out of the equation is still probably more important, as Maru still holds on to a Viking lead despite the loss of his own Vikings, and is now pushing this little task force away. So that means his 3rd CC should be able to land. Like I said, probably not too different from Cure's timing, but Cure really has brought this game back. Is not quite correct. The supplies look totally fine for him, but it's Maru's potential with his army that's really scary. He's got 4 more tanks and a Raven compared to Cure's 0. That could go a long way if it gets into the proper position, whereas Cure's army is much more dependent on finding things out of position and stalling out Maru's push. So it might look like everything's settled down again and everything's a wash after an entire orbital command was killed, but that's not really true. It could be if Kira does hold on against this push and perhaps even forces a little bit of a base trade that goes in his favor. Vikings siege up from Maru and will not be taken down. Only one of them. The other one still firing away happily, and now the tanks on siege are going to be jumped upon by Maru's bio army. Kira saves 2 of them, but 2 tanks is hardly a defensive force. Third one does siege up, but the other 2 are still in the medevac, and Kira only has an opportunity to base trade at this point in time. That is his only hope to make this game as weird as he needs it to be, as he tries to defend his natural base. That's so many tanks from Maru, Marines included, Banshee as well, Liberator still intact, and Kira's counterattack force, his base trade force is going to be way too small. That's a callback. I have been watching more VODs, I guess, and looking at more artifacts from unpacking, but that came out of nowhere. But it looks like Kira just cannot hold on to his own base. The natural was kind of a obvious loss. The main base, perhaps if he had put his tanks up on the main, might have been a little more arguable, but without any tanks in his main base, this base trade is absolutely going in Maru's favor. Kira's army cannot do a thing about it. Even if it got the best concave possible, what is it really going to do against this many tanks? An anti-armor missile could also come down. If it needed to. Or maybe not. Hey, shout out to that one missile turret. That was amazing. Kira's still down 30 supply. And the positioning is just too terrible to actually work with. You know, if he had gotten medevacs over to pick up all these Marines and then force like a real base race, and then the tanks are gonna get caught on siege, like, probably still not. Probably still not. But definitely not in that situation. And so we will have Maru bring this to a game 5. Maru doing Maru things, dashing people's raised hopes. Let's see. Falls behind, but then brings it back for the fans, for the drama, for the storyline. Well, Base Trade TV is still being used as far as the channel goes. It's just no longer StarCraft. I've been going down memory lane. So I guess that was stuck in my brain. Freudian slip. One I haven't done in a very long time. I've cast many a base trade. Never had the urge to add TV onto it until today. But anyways, I wanted to see just how good a position Kira was in before he lost that orbital. Considering how close he was to bringing it back. He was ahead by 10 workers. His production was already intact. 3 barracks to 1. And of course his army was totally fine as well. And if Maru had overstayed his welcome without killing the command center, then that would have been a double whammy that probably would have led to Maru's death. But Maru not only killed the command center, he also did not overstay his welcome. He actually just left after this, which is really quite nice of him to do. Maru's Banshees maybe could have still run around and done something, but no, Kira was certainly in the lead. It's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable that he lost his orbital command. It's also quite shocking that this attack stressed him out so much that happened as well. Because this is usually a point in which very good Terran players are like, you know, keep calm, carry on, realize this can't really snowball all that much. Because I've got my production, and I've got the opportunity to hold on a little while here, and then, yeah, I don't know. His priorities were not correct. Very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. At the very least, if this hadn't have died and Maru pulled back when he should, this would have been one of those really close comeback games from Maru. Like, I think Maru is in a very bad position if he doesn't kill the orbital, but I do believe this would be the type of game which he might be able to bring it back. But then he just kills the orbital. It's like, oh, okay, that made life much easier. I guess that's nice of you. Feeling a little concerned for Cure right now. That was a tremendous blunder. Hopefully his mental is a-okay as we head into game 5. Yeah, okay, we could do that. Let me see here. As his orbital died, what was Cure looking at? Oops. Oh my god. Reaper harassment, Banshee defense, Reaper harassment. That's when he lost him. Nope, that's actually not when he lost him. That's when he pulled the SCVs. See, he pulls the SCVs. And then he thinks that's enough SCVs. He's actually watching this as it dies. Oh my god. Again, one of those things that I can 100% see happening. Your vision might be on this, but your eyes might be paying us somewhere else. And then you just think you pulled enough SCVs, or the command center has another tank volley before it dies, and then it's, you know, you're just a little bit wrong. But oh boy, oh boy. Nah, let's get into game 5. In the bottom right of Dragon Scales, we have Maru. In the top left, it is Cure. And I certainly hope that Cure is not tilted, but if he wasn't already, and that was perhaps a part of why his command center died, losing your command center would make me believe you would be tilted. It's not a situation where you had to lose that one. It's not like there was Vikings controlling the skies, so it was a matter of running out of SCVs that could repair as it floated away. It was just a matter of not pulling enough SCVs to begin with, and then not lifting when he could have. Hindsight 2020 and all that, but again, generally at this level, you either are confirmed like repairing it well enough, or there's like a priority checklist in your brain where you're basically like, okay, things are getting a little heated, and so in order to make this a little easier for myself, I'll go ahead and do this instead of that. So it's not the most ideal situation. If you could have your command center still mining with half of your workers, then you don't want to lift it. But on the off chance that things get a little freaky, lifting it would ensure it would never die. And you might be taking a hit to basically like optimization, but then you could focus properly on whatever you were trying to focus on. So there's just basically many reasons why we would generally not see that mistake made. And Cure's slight misread or mislook or whatever happened has really ruined his chances. Now that Maru is in the zone with a bit of a snowball effect behind him, momentum's certainly good for Maru. It's pretty freaking hard to kill the guy at that point. Cure had, I would say, in both of the games he lost, actually a decent position to win. The altitude game, not nearly as much for as long, but even that was still a little screwy because he could have maybe done a lot more damage with his first Reaper attack. When, like I said, Maru had only one Reaper and one Hellion on the high ground. But Cure settled for the command center cancel, which is usually fantastic. It could have maybe even been more. And in that last game, he was certainly ahead, and just a matter of handling that pressure well, which we assume that he would do, and he didn't. And then he did not. And again, the possibility of Maru making a comeback out of that game anyway is still there. You know, he didn't kill the orbital, but it does seem like Cure is especially on points not letting Maru make a comeback happen. Because in those first 2 games that Cure played and won, he was very good about actually killing Maru. Maru might have gotten up to 3 bases in like that first game, right? But Cure was actually all over him. So, yeah, I think Cure could have won the last 2 games at different points. And now he's instead on his last life, but so is Maru still, of course. But it is Maru, and maybe you're thinking, well, the Maru effect is happening now. I can't stop it. Kira's always a bridesmaid, never a bride thing might still be happening. It makes me sad, though. Both players would deliver fantastic finals. And both players are certainly of the caliber to win the finals. But Maru has the Maru effect. Looking for his 7th GSL victory, by the way. Should he win this series, then win the next one. But we're not quite there yet. He's going to attack in, just right on the front lines with the medevac dropping a tank. The tank is taking out the Cyclone. Cyclone would love to be doing the same. They locked onto a Marine instead of the medevac or the tank. The bigger and better options. And now that tank is only one shot away from death. It gets the lock on. Actually, it gets the lock on the medevac, which was unable to pick up the tank anyway. I don't know how that Cyclone survived, but it did. Maru was trying to evacuate it perhaps the exact wrong time, and now his own Cyclone comes in too late as Cure was quick to the repair on the Cyclone. Nice micro there. Maru realized he was going to be overwhelmed and unsieged his tank, so the tank never got the shot on the Cyclone, which maybe would have led to a slightly more successful escape, but instead everything kind of went to shit. And Kira is actually once again in the lead here, up a couple of workers and going for his counter-attack when Maru still does not have a tank ready to go. One did just pop out, but is yet on the low grounds. Yep, it should be good. Kira takes a moment to regroup. Maru's scout reveals the intentions, and Kira probably thinking that this is no longer something that would actually work just by going up into the natural base. We'll then hit that main base over here. At least the supply depot usually goes down. He could try and siege here, but there are no structures to hit. It looks like he will regroup to attack the front lines after just meandering around a little bit. He scans ahead, sees one tank. Can't go for the interference matrix. If he could, this would be a little sketch. And Maru's Marine scout the 3rd CC. It did not. Kira's getting away with the 3rd CC on location. Perhaps one of the additional reasons not to pull the trigger right there is that if he's getting ahead on that 3rd CC timing, that's pretty freaking good already. I risk it for the biscuit. Kira's 3rd CC is certainly farther ahead than his opponent's because it is on location. It's not that much farther ahead. Their production is very similar as well. Stim similar enough. Viking count very similar. It's actually quite a close game, except in Maru's army supply. As he did not opt for a 2nd Raven, he is missing that. He's down 2 tanks. A handful of Marines. Not that they're super important right now. And Maru is the one that's on the defense. Kira just happy again, kind of with the contain. Doesn't even have to siege up his tanks to hold on to this contain. His 3rd CC is now happily turning into a little orbital command. He is later to his 1-1, something that Maru might be able to utilize in 2 minutes, I suppose. There might be a big enough gap to have a 1-1 upgrade timing. Provided that he lives long enough. He is the one that is still down in army supply, but down in army supply when you're defending only 2 bases in a TVT, usually you can defend those 2 bases. It is the reaching out towards the 3rd that is extremely difficult to do, and Kira is making sure that 3rd will not be gotten anytime soon. Not easily, anyway. As he now holds on to a 4-ish worker lead. It's Maru, who's a bit faster on the production. I wonder why that is. Extra 2 barracks are finishing as Kira still has yet to produce his. I guess he had a couple of more spikes in this game. Well, that's a lot of Vikings. A lot of Vikings, couple of Ravens right on top of those barracks, and those reactors are goners. Well, maybe not that one. Tank will siege up and push away the Vikings, but you know, honestly, even the barracks is a little suspect. Yep, Vikings deal a lot of damage. They're not bad. They're not shabby. Hey, this is actually a pretty good delay on the production, but look at this. Kira going for the same thing. He's like, hey, that's a really good idea. That's a fun idea. He was already in transit, which is probably more of a surprise to Kira. Maru might have expected something like the Viking shenanigans, but then to risk his Vikings to travel across the map to do the same damage was quite the risk to take. But Maru's risk really does pay off. Kier has been delaying production, not killing it, and not killing nearly as many SCVs. Kier just lost 30, Maru only 11, but the Vikings are yet to be done. They kill a tank, they might not be able to kill these Marines, and as such, Maru's SCVs are safe as Kier pulls the rest of his army back home. He realizes he cannot deal with the Viking numbers. He actually has to come back home to deal with this. He might lose another tank if he's not careful as well, and Kier is dipped down in supply tremendously thanks to a Viking backstab. Of all strategies, it is the Viking backstab that does it. I mean, who does this, right? This would 100% be an understandable mistake to make. Because I guess there was a bit of a tell that Maru was doing this when he didn't track Kier's Vikings or come over to respond at all with his own. I mean, maybe, you know, Maru acknowledges, okay, I don't have as many Vikings as you, but usually if the Vikings land like that, the defending Terran also has their Vikings waiting to support whatever else army they brought along. But who brings their Vikings across the map? Kier would never have expected that. And because he didn't, he's on the back foot now. He's dangerously close to losing out in this best of 5 after being up 2-0. And while he holds on to this particular defense, there is more coming. Maru has the superior economy, third CC finally down, superior upgrades, his 1-1 is already done, and Kier actually missed his armor. I think that was a miss, not a cancel or anything like that. And oh no. Oh no, Maru gets all of his army up to that high ground, all the tanks are sieged up, the SCVs prepare to be pulled, but then realize it's not going to be worth it. The Marines coming in one at a time without combat shields, already stimmed up, are going to get one shot by everything. And Kier has lost game number 5. Oh no. Maru's gonna win GSL yet again, isn't he? Kier, he tries his best every damn time. He looks so good. Because I think at the best of 7 finals, he also started off the series strong. But Maru always makes the comeback happen. Game-wise, series-wise, tournament-wise, Maru is Maru. What a heartbreaker for Kier. Every one of those games, he had a chance to win. Every single one. And some mistakes and missed opportunities were more understandable than others, but every single one, he had an opportunity. And he kind of let it slip away, or was forced to let it slip away. Because Maru is just Maru. He's got that Maru energy. The oppression, the force field. He does what he does. And he moves on, which means we're going to have a Mark. Yeah, we're going to have a Mark Finals. That wasn't incorrect. It's Maru and Dark. That's their couple name. It's the Mark Finals. Best of 7 GSL coming up.